every game of the 2024 season on Squiggle. If you didn't know, Squiggle is a ladder predictor. You can predict every game, and I'll put the link down the description so you can do your prediction. And before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, and tap on the show and share this video with your friends. Let's get into the video. First up, we have Sydney versus Melbourne. I'll go Sydney by 10 points, Brisbane by 19 points. The Tigers, I reckon, will go by 3 points. Be close. And I reckon the Giants by 3 points also. Richmond versus GWS, I reckon this will be 20. We will lose by 21 points. Pies versus Sydney, I reckon Pies by 16 points. Essendon versus Hawthorn, I reckon the Bombers by 20. Giants versus North, I reckon this will be a blowout, in my opinion. Geelong versus St Kilda, I reckon I can see a Saints upset. Actually, we'll go the Saints by 5 points. Crows versus the Gold Coast, I reckon the Suns will win this by 14 points. Dogs versus Melbourne, I reckon Melbourne by 16 points. Port versus West Coast, this will be a blowout. Fremantle versus Brisbane, I can see a Fremantle upset. I reckon it'll be I reckon Brisbane by 10. Collingwood versus St Kilda, I reckon unfortunately St Kilda fans, I'm going to go Pies by 19 points. Crows versus Geelong, I reckon the Crows by 36 points. Fremantle versus North, I reckon Fremantle by 21 points. Hawthorn versus Melbourne, I reckon Melbourne by 26 points. Sydney versus Essendon, I reckon Swans by 26 points. Dogs versus Suns at Master 8, I reckon this will be close, and I reckon Dogs just get home by 2. Richmond Port, unfortunately, I'm going to have to tip Port. Don't see us getting up in this one by 11 points. West Coast versus GWS, I reckon the Giants by 35 points. Brisbane versus Collingwood, I reckon the Pies by... No, I reckon the Lions by 10 points. No, I'm going to go 12 points, actually. North versus Carlton Good Friday clash, I reckon the Blues by 33 points. They pop up to 4th. Crows versus Fremantle. Could see a Fremantle upset. Don't see it happening this game. I'm actually going to tip Fremantle. I actually will tip Fremantle by 15 points. They have not played against the Crows since 2018 at Optus Stadium. 15 points Fremantle. Essendon versus St Kilda. I reckon the Bombers by 29. They have a good record over the Saints at Marble. Port versus Melbourne. I reckon Port by 19. West Coast versus Port. I can see a West Coast upset, definitely. Unfortunately, I'm going to tip the Dogs by 32 points. Swans versus Richmond. Actually, I'm going to go a Tigers upset because Swans don't really technically play well at the MCG the last few weeks. Richmond by 5 points. Hawthorn versus Geelong. I reckon the Cats will win by 31 points. Let's go for that. The Crows versus Melbourne. I reckon the Crows they'll beat Melbourne by maybe 23 points. North versus Brisbane. Let's see. This is Gataround, by the way. North by, let's go, 80 points. Port versus Essendon. I reckon the Power by 4. I reckon it would be by 13 points. Sydney versus West Coast. Adelaide Hills. These teams have never played in the Adelaide Hills. I'll just go Sydney by 18 points. Fremantle versus Carlton, because Carlton have no one at that. I reckon Fremantle will win this. Quite close. Geelong versus Bulldogs, I reckon the Cats by 28 points. Gold Coast versus GWS, I reckon I'll take the Suns in upset by 8 points. I don't know how the Giants play it. When play it well, the Giants play out Mount Barker. Richmond versus St Kilda, I reckon the Saints by go 10-point margin. Collingwood versus Hawthorn. I reckon the Pies by. I reckon it'll be pretty close. They'll be on Ginston. I reckon it'll be close. I'll go a 1-point win by Pies. Melbourne versus Brisbane. I reckon the Lions by. They do actually play quite well against Melbourne. I reckon Lions by 19 points. Dogs versus Essendon. I reckon Dogs by 30 points. Giants versus St Kilda. I reckon the Giants win this one by 27. The Blues versus the Crows. I reckon the Crows by. Crows don't really travel very well away, I think, because I reckon the Blues are going to have a better season than the Crows. I reckon Blues by 28. Suns versus Hawks. I reckon the Hawks will go 0-5. I could see the Hawks going to go 5. Don't really have them doing too well in my ladder predictions. I'm going to go Suns by 27 points. Port versus Fremantle. This will be a flogging, I reckon, by 43. Same with this one. Geelong versus North. I reckon 88 points will do it. West Coast versus Richmond. I reckon the Tigers by 20. I don't reckon the Tigers will be that bad, in my opinion. I can still see us playing finals. We'll win by 33 points. Saints versus Bulldogs. I reckon the Saints by 25. Crows by Essendon. Crows by 28 points. Collingwood versus Port. I reckon the Pies will flog them again by 67 points, I mean. I'll go overloaded by round 12. And Carlton versus GWS. I reckon the Giants narrowly lose. I'm the Giants by 1. No, I reckon the Blues by. I'm going to change it. Blues by 23 points. Brisbane versus Geelong. I reckon the Lions will get them this one. West Coast versus Fremantle. I can see a West Coast upset, actually. I'm going to go West Coast by 10 points. Sydney versus Gold Coast. I reckon the Swans by 31 points. Actually, going to North versus Hawthorn. I reckon the Hawks by 37 points. I don't reckon this will be a good game. Richmond versus Melbourne. Hard one to tip. D's are 2 and 4. I've just realised. I might give the D's a win over the Tigers, unfortunately. Melbourne by 19. Pies versus Essendon. I reckon this will be a close one. Pies by 3 points. Giants versus Brisbane. I reckon that the Giants will win by 8 points. Pies Power versus St Kilda. I reckon Port Adelaide by 34 points. Crows versus North. I reckon the Crows will flog them this one, unfortunately. Geelong versus Carlton. I'm going to go Carlton by 15 points. Fremantle versus Bulldogs. I reckon a Fremantle upset that one. Gold Coast versus West Coast. I reckon Gold Coast by 32. Hawthorn versus Sydney. I reckon Swans by 35 points. Crows versus Port. I reckon this will be close. Crows by. Going to go point. You can hate me for that, Port Adelaide fans. Carlton versus Collingwood. I reckon, unfortunately, Collingwood fans, I reckon you might get beaten this one again by 2 points. Swans versus GWS. This has always turned into a thriller. I reckon it seems to be like the opposite way around. The Giants get them at home, at Swans home ground, and it's the Giants home game, and they always lose. I reckon the Giants by 2 points. Saints versus North. I reckon Saints will play this out quite comfortably. Melbourne versus Geelong. I reckon Melbourne by 19. West Coast versus Hawthorn. I reckon Essendon by 16. Fremantle versus Richmond. I reckon Richmond by 20 points. Hawthorn versus the Bulldogs. I reckon Bulldogs by 33 points, unfortunately. Brisbane versus Gold Coast. I reckon the Lions by 32 points. Blues versus Melbourne. I reckon the Blues will win this one. The Cats versus the Power. I reckon the Cats will win this one by 25 points. Fremantle versus Sydney. I reckon the Swans by about 40 points. Hawthorn versus St Kilda. I reckon a Hawthorn upset this one. Essendon versus GWS. I reckon the Giants by 16. Richmond versus Bulldogs. We seem to pop up around a result half the time. I reckon we'll win by. Hating for these stock fans, I reckon we can actually win this one. Maybe by, let's go a 22 point margin. Gold Coast versus North, I reckon Gold Coast by 50. Collingwood versus Collingwood don't usually play well at the Marble, I reckon a 23 points. Crows versus Brisbane, I reckon the Lions by 20 points. Gold Coast versus Geelong, I reckon Suns by 28. This will help them in Darwin. Sydney versus Carlton SCG, I reckon Swans will win this one by 15 points. Collingwood versus Adelaide, I reckon Collingwood will win by 15. Giants versus Bulldogs, I reckon the Giants will win this one. I'm going to go the Dogs by 7 points. St Kilda versus Fremantle, I reckon the Saints by 16 points. Richmond versus Brisbane, don't see us winning out the game, but we'll lose by about 52 points. Unfortunately for Tiger fans, Bombers versus North, I reckon Bombers will win this quite comfortably by 34 points. Port versus Hawthorn, I reckon Hawks will win this. I reckon the Power will win this by 21 points, West Coast versus Melbourne, don't see West Coast winning this one, unfortunately, by 37 points. They'll lose that one. Bulldogs versus Sydney, I reckon the Swans will win this by. I'm going to go the Dogs actually by 7 points. Fremantle versus Collingwood, I reckon Collingwood would blow them out by 51 points. North versus Port, I reckon Power by 53 points. Carlton versus Gold Coast, I reckon the Blues by 25. Giants versus Cats GNHB, I reckon the Giants win this one by 21 points. Richmond versus Essendon, I reckon I reckon the Tigers will win. Good 28 points. Tonight. Hawthorn versus Brisbane, I reckon this will be a part where Brisbane just will start to be a bit. I reckon the Hawks will beat the Lions. They had a good record against Brisbane. I reckon 14 points. Melbourne versus St Kilda, I reckon Saints by 23 points. Crows versus West Coast, I reckon the Crows will smash in this one again by 92 points. Port versus Carlton, I reckon the Carlton will finally win out the Adelaide Oval by, can hate me for this Port fans, I reckon 2 points. Collingwood versus Bulldogs, I reckon pass by 15. Hawthorn versus Adelaide, I reckon the Crows will win this, unfortunately, by 27 points. And then finally, right there, CG Hoodoo winning away from home by 29 points. West Coast versus St Kilda, I reckon Saints by 14 points. Geelong versus Richmond, unfortunately the Cats will probably win this one. Do see us winning that, it'll be quite close by 9 points. Melbourne versus Fremantle, I reckon Fremantle will make it upset this one by 23 points. Gold Coast versus Essendon, I'm going to go the Suns by 62 points. Crows versus Richmond, unfortunately the Crows by 21 points. Bulldogs versus Brisbane, I reckon the Dogs will win this one again by 17 points. Hawthorn versus GWS, Giants by, I reckon the Hawks by 4 points, another upset. West Coast versus North Melbourne. I reckon this will be a North Melbourne upset by 3 points. St Kilda versus Gold Coast. I reckon Saints by 20. Sydney versus Geelong. I reckon the Swans by 20 points. Essendon versus Carlton. I reckon the Blues will get this one by 60 points. I realised the Bombers in the bottom 4. Don't see them happening, I reckon. Collingwood versus Melbourne. I reckon this will be another Melbourne upset, like they come out, beat the Pies this time, beat them again. Queen's birthday clash. Brisbane versus St Kilda. Unfortunately, don't see them winning that game. I reckon 47 points. Good margin. Bulldogs versus Fremantle. I reckon just by 22. Richmond Hawthorn. I reckon the Tigers will beat them by 31 points. Adelaide versus Sydney. I reckon the Crows I reckon they'll get them back by 32 points. Collingwood versus North End. This will be actually a smashing. I can see it going. I reckon it'll be 100 points. They'll lose by the Roos, unfortunately. Sorry, Colin, for that. Giants versus Port Adelaide. I reckon the Giants will win this by 28 points. Carlton versus Geelong. I reckon the Cats by 15 points. Port versus Brisbane. I reckon the Lions by 2 points. Giants versus Sydney. I reckon the Swans will get them back this one by 2 points. Melbourne versus North. I reckon this will be a nice smashing by 92 points. Sorry, Colin, for that. Essendon versus West Coast. I reckon Essendon will smash them here by 32 points comfortably. Fremantle versus Gold Coast. I reckon Fremantle by 17. Brisbane versus Melbourne. I reckon Brisbane by 58 points. Geelong versus Essendon. I reckon the Bombs will make it upset this one by 4 points. Gold Coast versus Collingwood. I reckon Pies by 11. North versus Bulldogs. I reckon the Bulldogs by 61 points. Carlton v Richmond. I reckon the Blues by. I reckon we'll be quite close in this one, and I'm down to the last minute. 6 points. St Kilda versus Port Adelaide. I reckon the Power by 11. Sydney versus Fremantle. I reckon this one's by 34. Giants versus Crows. The Giants already seen to beat the Crows at the Adelaide Oval every year. I reckon that this will be the Giants by 8. Hawks versus West Coast. I reckon Hawthorn by 27 points. Brisbane versus Adelaide. I reckon Brisbane by 32 points. Collingwood versus Essendon. Collingwood by 20 points. Geelong versus Hawthorn. I reckon the Cats by 28 points. Carlton versus GWS. I reckon the Giants will win this one by 4 points. The Melbourne versus West Coast. I reckon Melbourne by 70 points. North versus Gold Coast. I reckon the Suns by 35 points. Saints versus Sydney. I reckon this will be a Saints upset by 23 by 10 points. 12 points. Port versus the Dogs. I reckon Power by 27 points. Fremantle versus Richmond. I reckon Richmond by 16 points. Collingwood versus Geelong. I reckon the Pies will blow them out this one by 36 points. Gold Coast versus Port. I reckon the Gold Coast upset will be this one by 19 points. I'll probably put upsets in because that's the way how the season works. There's always upsets. Hawthorn versus Fremantle. I reckon Hawthorn by 20 points. Melbourne versus Essendon. I reckon the Bombers by 25 points. Richmond GWS. I reckon we win this game by 5 points. We always seem to play well. The Giants at the G. Sydney versus North. I reckon Sydney will win this by 94 points. Bulldogs versus Carlton. I reckon the Blues by 29 points. Crows versus St Kilda. I reckon the Crows will smash them by 64. West Coast versus Brisbane. I think this will be one of the smashings. 115 points. Sydney versus the Lions. I reckon the Lions will win this. Actually, going Sydney upset for the first time. I'm actually going to go a draw. They still have not been beaten at Gabby just yet. What happened this year? I don't know. I reckon that will be a draw. Carlton versus North. I reckon Carlton by 63 points. Essendon versus Adelaide. I reckon Adelaide by 21 points. Geelong versus the Dogs. I reckon Geelong by 22. Giants versus Gold Coast. I reckon the Giants will beat them by 33 points. Hawthorn versus Collingwood. I reckon the Hawks will beat them this one by 9 points. St Kilda versus West Coast. I reckon St Kilda by 33 points. Port versus Richmond. I think we'll lose that by 14. Fortunately. Fremantle versus Melbourne. I reckon Melbourne by 15. Come by 15 points. Richmond versus Collingwood. Unfortunately, we'll get smashed in this one by 25 points. Who knows? We could actually win that. Gold Coast versus Brisbane. I reckon Gold Coast will get upset on this one. 70 by 1 point. No, 3 points. I mean. Melbourne versus GLS. I reckon GLS will win by 31 points. North versus Geelong. I reckon upset this one. So by 10 points. St Kilda versus Essendon. I reckon Saints by 20 points. Sydney versus the Dogs. I reckon Swans by 22 points. Adelaide versus Hawthorn. I reckon Adelaide by 29 points. Fremantle versus West Coast. I reckon Fremantle will get them this time by 40 points, in my opinion. Collingwood versus Carlton. I reckon Carlton win the next one. I'll go top of the table. And I don't reckon they'll stay there for long. Then Essendon versus Fremantle. I reckon Essendon by 35 points. Geelong versus Adelaide. I reckon the Cats win this one by 23 points. Hawthorn versus GIS. I reckon the Giants by 12. North versus Richmond. I could see another North upset. I reckon North will win this one by 3 points. St Kilda versus Brisbane. I reckon the Lions will win this one by 40. I reckon it'll be a 70-point win by the Lions. Bulldogs versus Melbourne. I reckon the Demons by 25 points. Port versus Sydney. I reckon the Power by 25 points. West Coast versus Adelaide. I reckon West Coast will win. No, I reckon Gold Coast will win. Gold Coast. Giants versus Brisbane. I reckon the Giants will beat them. This is the first. I reckon the Giants will finally get beaten out the Gabba by 4 points. Carlton versus Hawthorn. I reckon the Blues by 21 points. Essendon versus Gold Coast. Essendon by 21 points. I reckon Port versus Melbourne. I reckon the Power will win by 18 points. West Coast versus North. I reckon West Coast will win. West Coast will get the second time by 23 points. Richmond versus St Kilda. I reckon Saints will win this one. Could see a Richmond upset. Definitely could. Sydney versus Collingwood. I reckon the Pies will lose this one by 19 points. The Crows versus the Bulldogs. I reckon the Crows by 33 points. Fremantle versus Geelong, I reckon Fremantle by 18 points. Collingwood versus Brisbane, I reckon the Pies will get this one, get them back by, it'll be close again, by 7 points. Essendon versus Sydney, I reckon the Dons will win that one by 20 points. Actually, we'll change it. 19 points. Gold Coast versus Melbourne, I reckon the Suns will win this one. It'll be close by 2 points. Giants versus Fremantle, I reckon Fremantle will make an upset in this one. Hawthorn versus Richmond, I reckon Richmond. St Kilda versus Geelong, I reckon Saints will win this by 16. Bulldogs versus North, I reckon North will get smashed. Port versus Adelaide, I reckon Adelaide by 14. I reckon Adelaide Port by 2 points. Blues versus Carlton, I reckon the Blues will smash in this one again by 111. Brisbane versus Essendon, I reckon the Lions win this one. And I reckon Saints will lose that. Just want to change something. I reckon the Eagles will get smashed in this one also by, let's go 113. 112 actually. Hawthorn versus North, I reckon North will get smashed in this one. Just need to go back, guys. Just checking. Melbourne versus Collingwood, I reckon Collingwood will win this one by 24 points. Richmond versus the Gold Coast, I reckon Richmond by 10. Just need to go back, guy. I reckon the Crows by 14 points. Bulldogs versus GWS, I reckon the Dogs win that by 20 points. Port versus Fremantle, I reckon Fremantle win that. And that, so first Carlton, third Collingwood, GWS 4, Sydney 5th, Adelaide 6, Port 7, Gold Coast 8, St Kilda 9, Bulldogs 10th, Richmond 11th, Geelong 12, Melbourne 13. That's a bit low for Melbourne. Essendon versus Hawthorn. Essendon 14, Hawthorn 15, Fremantle 16, 17, West Coast 18, and North Island 17. West Coast only with 2 wins, just realised. I reckon Brisbane, Sydney, Carlton, GWS, and the Giants and the Lions will win the flag. Thank you for watching Eastern Footy Channel. Make sure you like and subscribe and tap and go share. You'll be notified when I ever post a video. Make sure you tap the notification because you don't want to miss any contact through this season. The season's just 1 day away. Starts tomorrow at 7 p.m. I reckon. Thank you for Footy Channel. Signing out. See ya!